I have 7 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Counselor Dreer?
Present.
Counselor Urban?
Here.
Counselor Fleck?
Here.
Counselor Meriday?
Here.
Counselor Savage?
Here.
Counselor Stennett?
Here.
Mayor Soulsby?
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now we have a special presentation. It's in honor of Richard Myers for 26 years of service to Cottage Grove. We want to thank you, Mr. Myers, for your dedication to this city. And we wish you nothing but the best in your years to come and chasing after your 10 grandchildren. The wood is redwood, and it is from some trees that the city had to remove on G and Chestnut. And so it's you'll get to take a little bit of our city with you. Items to be added to the agenda, I see none. Appearance of interested citizens for items not on the agenda. This is a time for citizen comment on items not listed on the agenda for a maximum of 30 minutes. Individual speakers must be recognized by the presiding officer, provide their name and address, and will be allowed up to 5 minutes or less with council approval. Comments regarding any matter scheduled for a public hearing may be provided only in that hearing. Comments on agenda items may be taken prior to council discussion on that item. The council will not engage in any discussion or make any decisions based on public comment at this time. However, the council may take comments under advisement for discussion and action at a future council meeting. All right. Brett Rogers. You're not. You just want to speak to me after the meeting? Or, oh, this is the time that. Okay. All right, Brett. Thank you. Deborah Monsev.
Deborah Monsev, 77500 South 6th Street, Cottage Grove. Mayor and Council, thank you for allowing this time for the public to speak. I just want to say that I support all the duly elected councilors, and I feel that they're doing a great job, and I appreciate them. I also want to thank Richard for being such a great city manager. It's been a joy to work with him over the years, and I wish him and his family a lot of happiness and long years of playing with those grandchildren and maybe volunteering at the Cottage Grove Genealogical Society. But I also want to say that in looking for a replacement for Richard, I have a request, and I hope that you can keep this in mind. Our town is unique, it's special. We have a historic designated downtown, and I just hope that you find someone who cares and is interested with working with all the partners in history to continue collecting and preserving our local history and our downtown. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bruce Kelsch.
Bruce Kelsch, 78340 Haldeman Road. Wanted to thank the city for having a great celebration for Richard's retirement that dinner really brought home to me, when you have a room full of 200 people that have contributed to the city and worked hard, volunteered, were public servants. We had current mayor, past mayors, current council members, past council members, as well as all the different organizations that are represented. And it really affirmed for me why we love Cottage Grove. It's the people, and it's all the willingness to contribute to make our town a better place. And Richard's family spoke, and one of the things that really brought home to me is the, I don't want to say sacrifices, but certainly the adjustments that need to be made and what people, the effort that people go to try and balance family and volunteer work. And so I know how many committees the council members serve on, how many meetings the mayor has. And I want to acknowledge and affirm how much people give to our community in this way as volunteers. So thank you, council members. Thank you, Mayor, for all you've done. And we just need to appreciate you folks more. Thanks.
Thank you. Andrew Gottlieb.
Keep it short and sweet. And I'm not going to say any names because it was hard enough just to bear it and be there. I saw a 15-year-old in between the last council meeting and this one overdose on fentanyl. And everybody at one of the camps turned them down for help. Personally, had to walk them to the other camp and administer Norcam to get the kid to sober up enough to where he could even be copable. Right now he's in, I believe, the local Johnson unit equivalent. And I don't want to say anything else at this point, except for basically we've got a conundrum here. I don't understand why one of my good friends for 30 years is suffering, buying fentanyl on the streets for pain when she had pain patches before, which were safe. She was on them for almost 20 years. She needs them. She jumped off an overpass in Portland and almost killed herself, which what she was trying to do. But somehow she miraculously survived. And now she suffers with physical, mental, and spiritual pain every day. But all the pieces of the puzzle are there. I mean, all we have to do, I believe, is be smart with our bureaucratic mannerisms and our intelligence, communicate with all these administrations and departments that exist, and do our godly duty to not see this happen again. Thank you for listening. I'm going to decline saying anything else at this point.
Thank you. Christopher Travis.
Good evening. My name is Christopher Jarvis, 77500 South 6th Street. I'm a newcomer to your community, but not a newcomer to civic involvement or personal freedoms. As a decorated veteran of a foreign conflict, I've been overseas. I've seen the pain. I've seen the conflict, and I will stand up for your right to say what you want to do. Our personal freedoms should not be overlooked. People's expression and who they are as a person and what you're born with and what you are, what you have to live with for the rest of your life. So that I also have a nephew who died from an overdose. My sister will never get over it. And every time you look at the pain and suffering in people's eyes, it becomes more evident that the efforts of our government officials are not doing enough and not pointing the fingers in the right direction. Every time you point one finger forward, three fingers point backwards. And so when you look at those efforts and see where our federal government is headed with the discourse and the just the ridiculousness, looking at a federal shutdown, that just is embarrassing. It's embarrassing to us, embarrassing to me as a citizen. I was vice president of my student council when I was in school and fought very hard for the rights of each and every one of our students. And it wasn't from a big community. I grew up in a small community like this, and we had our own share of we had our own share of demons. So when every time you look at something like that, you say these are things that can be cured with a cohesive direction, and with somebody that everybody as a community, and you people as well too, as leaders of the community, need to be aware of that. And in the discourse about the education of our children, and I was watching something on television today. It was the poet laureate of the Junior League of America, a woman that read a poem at the last presidential inauguration, and had one of her books banned. This smacks of 1930s Germany, and this does not sit well with me as having been through and seen and fought for the rights for people to express themselves and to see both sides of the page. It annoys me no end that that we are seen by the rest of the world as not the kind of democracy that we were held up to be. We need to try harder. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Public hearings, I see none. Consent agenda. Are we going to go back to Brett Rogers? Oh, I'm sorry, did you want to speak? Okay, all right, okay. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. All right, consent agenda. None, there's none. All right, resolutions and ordinances. Item A resolution demonstrating a commitment to support grant application for DLCD Technical Assistance Grant, seeking funding for economic opportunities analysis, buildable land inventory, and an updated housing needs analysis as preparatory work for a comprehensive plan. Staff report by Mr. Mongan.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council. The Oregon Department of Land Conservation and Development, DLCD, is now accepting grant applications for technical assistance with long-range planning requirements. The City of Cottage Grove has been notified via the attached email that we are due for an Economic Opportunities Analysis, or EOA. As the current document is 14 years old, staff has been interested for some time in applying for this grant to get an updated EOA, but due to COVID and then the proposed preliminary flood maps, an application has not been submitted. With the recent notice from DLCD regarding the age of our EOA and the positive response from FEMA regarding the flood map revisions, staff believes it is appropriate timing for the city to apply for the funding. In addition to requesting funding for the EOA, staff intends to request funding for a buildable lands inventory and an update to our 2018 housing needs analysis. Following discussions with DLCD staff, believes that an application for funding to conduct these studies will be approved. Upon completion of these studies, the city will be well positioned to begin the process of completing a comprehensive plan update through voluntary periodic review. The Technical Assistance Grant Program through DLCD does not require a monetary match, though it is encouraged. That match can be made via in-kind contributions such as staff time, printing, advertising costs, and other miscellaneous expenses. It is recommended that Council adopt the attached draft resolution demonstrating the city's support for an application for funding to complete an economic opportunities analysis, buildable lands inventory, and an update to the housing needs analysis.
Thank you. Ms. Roberts, do we have a resolution number?
2114.
2114. All right. Any discussion? Questions? No? Oh, Councilor Fleck.
Madam Mayor, I move that the council adopt Resolution 2114.
We have a motion with a second. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Counselor Irvin?
Aye.
Counselor Fleck?
Aye.
Counselor Merriday?
Aye.
Counselor Dreer?
Aye.
Counselor Savage?
Aye.
Counselor Sennett?
Aye.
Mayor Solsby?
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Mongan. Item B, a resolution adopting a new City of Cottage Grove personnel manual. Staff report by Mr. Boone.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. At the August 28th, 2023 City Council meeting, you all received draft of the new City of Cottage Grove Personnel Manual. That draft, since that time, has been forwarded to the city's bargaining units for their review and assent. The units have until the end of this Wednesday, September 27th, to either assent to the manual or raise objections and potentially enter into bargaining. Significant changes to Oregon paid time off laws have recently gone into effect and are reflected in the new manual. In order to get the new manual into use in a timely fashion, it would be appropriate for Council to approve the manual contingent upon either the units assenting to the manual or the time allotted for them to object elapsing. Should one or more units object, the attached resolution would not go into effect, and a new resolution would be necessary after any required bargaining. Should no bargaining be required, though, the resolution would allow the city to begin using the new personnel manual on October 1st. And as an update, of our 3 bargaining units, 2 of them so far have responded and said it's fine. They're fine with it. They don't intend to object in any way. We haven't heard anything from the 3rd one, but we're not anticipating any issues as of yet. So it's staff's recommendation that Council approve the resolution adopting the new personnel manual contingent on receiving no objection from the bargaining units.
Mr. Roberts, do we have a resolution number?
2115.
No. 2115. Okay.
I should also note that Mandy Beeler did amazing work on this. Everything that you look at this and like is her. And if you find any typos or anything, that was probably me introducing this.
Thank you, Mandy. Councillor Flack.
Oops, I just clicked that and lost my, Madam Mayor, I move that the council adopt resolution 2115, contingent on receiving no objection from the remaining bargaining unit.
Councillor Meriday.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just trying to find the place. This is such a comprehensive document. I did spend some time with it, and I know there had been a question about city employees engaging in political activities, and so it's clearly spelled out beginning on page 69 through 71. So if in the future, if this is adopted, then we could direct citizens to observe what is the guidelines for political activity from city employees. I know that had come up in an earlier discussion.
Second.
We have a motion with a second. All those in favor, will the recorder please call the roll?
Counselor Savage? Aye. Counselor Stennett?
Aye.
Counselor Meriday?
Aye.
Counselor Fleck?
Aye.
Counselor Dreer? Aye. Counselor Urban?
Aye.
Mayor Solsky?
Aye. Motion carries. Item C, first vote on ordinance annexing parcel 1 of land partition plat number 201-P2897, City of Cottage Grove, A2-23. Staff report by Assistant Planner Allison Crowe.
Good evening, Mayor, Councilors. Double H Investment Group, LLC, the owner of the unaddressed 5.06 acre parcel located at map and tax lot 20-03-32-00-00504, within the Cottage Grove urban growth boundary, has applied for an expedited annexation of said parcel. The purpose of this annexation is to further develop the property under City of Cottage Grove jurisdiction. The expedited process is being used pursuant to Section 18.04.050 of the Cottage Grove Municipal Code. Public notice was sent on September 7th, 2023 to property owners within 300 feet of the subject property, any affected special districts, and any local organization that requested notification of proposed annexation. They had 14 days to provide comments in writing or request a public hearing in writing. The deadline for receipt of requests was the end of the business day on Monday, September 25. Written comments were actually received on Tuesday, September 12th, but after further discussion with the requester, they withdrew their comments. Section 18.04.040A through D provides that the decision to approve an annexation shall be used based on the findings of fact with respect to each of the criteria and standards in this section, which are also included as Section 4 of the ordinance. Staff found the proposed expedited annexation is in compliance with that section. The ordinance has been available for more than 1 week and therefore can be adopted in one meeting, and staff is recommending approval.
Thank you. Any discussion? No. Councillor Flack.
Madam Mayor, do we have an ordinance number?
A176.
Madam Mayor, I'll move that the council adopt resolution 3176.
Second. We have a motion with a second. Any discussion? No.
And that is an ordinance. I think he said resolution.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I apologize. Ordinance 3176.
Councillor Merryday.
To your knowledge, has the Double H Investment Group given any indication of their future plans for the parcel?
I don't have anything on my desk at this time.
All right, thank you.
We have a motion with a second. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Counselor Stennett?
Aye.
Counselor Merriday?
Aye.
Counselor Dreer?
Aye.
Counselor Irvin?
Aye.
Counselor Savage?
Aye.
Counselor Fleck?
Aye.
Mayor Sosby?
Aye. Motion carries. All right. Business from the City Council. Item A, City Manager Recruitment, Interim Manager Discussion and Consideration, GMP Consultants. Staff report by Mr. Myers.
We have present virtually, Greg Prothman is on, and Bob Larson is also there, and he can unmute and show himself if he wants. And they also have David Klein here in the council chambers. So, Greg.
Hey, thank you very much, Madam Mayor, members of council, and ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for the opportunity of being here tonight, at least virtually. We've been asked to provide an interim city manager candidate for the council's consideration, as it will most likely take about 3 to 4 months to replace Richard once the search is concluded. We've done an extensive review of the potential candidates out there, and prior to suggesting somebody to you, there's a number of criteria we wanted to evaluate first. The first of that is, does a candidate have the requisite education to serve as a city manager and to be successful in this role? And indeed, David does. Not only does he have a bachelor's degree in political science, he also brings a master's degree in public administration and a Juris Doctorate degree in law. The second criteria I look at is, has he ever done any interim work before? And indeed, David has checked that box. He's actually been the interim city manager in 3 different Oregon communities, as well as serving as a permanent manager for quite a lengthy time, also in Oregon. And lastly, David brings a unique qualification you just don't see in many managers. He is a member of the International City Managers Association, as well as the Oregon City Managers Association. ICMA, which is our acronym for the International City Managers Association, will often, and we'll do this for all 50 states, they will identify 4 or 5 senior managers who have the requisite experience to be appointed as what we call a senior advisor. David does serve in that role for Oregon. And the senior advisor is someone that any manager in the state of Oregon can call and ask for advice on how to proceed, how to work through a tough situation. They're there because of their extensive experience in city management. And so we're very fortunate to have someone that we're recommending that has that experience also. With that, I would like to introduce David Klein.
Councillor Savage.
Thank you so much, Mayor. There was a little bit of concern that this was a part-time appointment. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in person, available Monday and Friday. Can you speak to that, Mr.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So a couple different things. One, I want to say the other qualification you didn't mention is that I have one more grandchild than Richard does, so I have 11. Not to mention a great-grandchild. So I one-up Richard on that as well. I am diverting just a teeny bit, but Richard I have known for some 20-some odd years, and since I've been in Oregon, and there comes no city manager in this state that is more respected than he is. I would be honored to be able to try to fill some of those shoes. 26 years in one space, in one place is, well, I think I've done 6 jobs during that time. So, I don't think that speaks to my longevity. But anyway, directly to your question, it can be done in that period of time for what this job is. I was interim city manager for City of Gresham, 115,000. That was 4 days a week in a virtual environment, 1 day in person. And I believe if you were to talk to those folks, the mission accomplished during that period. It's not the same job, frankly, as your full-time city manager that brings that you hope to have, that, like the member of the audience said, that somebody that will embrace and love your downtown and all the good works that you've done here. I'm here to keep the lights on, keep your staff going forward, and make sure that folks have the resource they need to do the jobs that they need to do. I would be available as needed, absolutely as needed. But also, frankly, I was contacted a teeny bit late in the game as to my availability, and after 5 years, I've developed a bit of a routine. In my personal life, I have some volunteer work that I'm doing. I'm not going to give that up. I have a new puppy in my life that I want to, that I need to share that responsibility with my wife. And I have a trip planned paid for and planned in January. So that's the short duration. I think that it would give you plenty of time to find another interim if you have yet to have filled the permanent position. And in the meantime, I think I can keep you on your path, doing the good works you've been doing, because frankly, Cottage Grove is renowned for the good works it does, and that's not just blowing smoke. So that said, I know that Faye is one of the people that has been put forward as a possible candidate. I've had the opportunity to work with Faye when he was county commissioner. Frankly, I held him in high regard then. I hold him in high regard now. You would not be disservice to have Faye as your interim as well.
Thank you so much. And if I can follow it up with one more question. Mr. Meyer's last day is Friday, and so the space is vacant as of Monday.
Yeah, nowhere.
I don't know when your availability starts. Is it that early, or is there?
The beauty of being retired is my availability is, yes, I can start on Monday. There is, if the proposal that you have in front of you is acceptable to you, the biggest obstacle is finding a place to stay, because it's a heck of a commute. Took me about an hour and a half without traffic. So beyond that, yes, I can start right away. And your staff looks like they have things well under. The city manager is not, thankfully for you, is not necessarily the person who goes in and turns the lights on, turns the lights off, and gets the computers going. Because I'd really be challenged if that's not the case. But it provides the oversight they need. So there's a lot of work that can be done. Getting up to speed and getting in and keeping you going.
Councilor Dreher.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilor. Welcome, Mr. Klein. Would you be available to attend the council meetings on Mondays?
Yes, I would make sure that my schedule was in person, certainly during council meetings, any critical meetings that need to be attended. I would just look to a virtual presence when that was doable. I'd like to set up a routine schedule, but I don't know what the city schedule is at this point. So, but I want to at least try to arrange 1 to 2 days a week where I can work at a distance, and that would probably come at a savings to you, because unless you have me schedule 8 hours solid meeting back to meeting, you wouldn't get charged for the time that I wasn't doing work for you.
Councilor Flack.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I actually really support having Mr. Klein fill in. I think we have strong department heads. Just to kind of reiterate some of our concerns is, the perception from potential candidates that somebody who's seeking that position is already working as an interim is a real challenge. No matter how good they are, I think it's going to limit our pool. And so I absolutely support this. The price tag was a little wow. But I think at the same time, this is kind of the reality of where we're going to probably have to be in our wages going forward. The current, budget will handle that for the most part. I mean, we can ask Bert, but I'm assuming that we can, make an adjustment at the end of the year if necessary. I think we will anyway, because I think we're low as far as our wages go, and I'm sure that's something that the GMP folks are going to walk us through as we go forward. But I think with Jake and Faye and Bert supporting here, I certainly support Mr. Klein as our interim director. Or manager, sorry.
Welcome, Mr. Klein. I wanted to piggyback on something that Councillor Fleck was just talking about, and we've been told that the current city manager's salary would absorb the cost, and that we've already got it budgeted in. But we're actually talking $80 an hour, then $30 to GMP, which comes to $110 an hour. And if that was at 40 hours a week, it's $4,400 a week, and that would be $17,600 a month plus living expenses. And I could only find one house available right now at 872 square feet for $1,500 a month, and that puts us right at $19,100 a month, which salary alone, if it was by year, would be $211,000. So it's not exactly a wash. So I just want to be clear what we're looking at here, that this is for 3 months' time, it would be $57,300 with, I believe that's just salary. So without per diem. So that's. But you were saying there could be some adjustments for the days that you're not in the office.
Yeah, you would get billed for the time that I put in, but I recognize the sticker shock, and you probably don't. I don't know whether you've evaluated in your thinking that Mr. Prossman's picking up all the indirect costs as part of that as well. He's bringing, and Greg can speak to himself, but I think what you're looking at is the savings on benefits for me, because I don't come with benefit package. And secondly, somebody has to pick up the cost of payroll and HR and the like, and that's what they're doing instead of you. So that's possibly possibly a consideration for you when you look at your numbers. But I'm not here to sell myself.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that that's not cheap, but I did charge Gresham $100 an hour. So if that's any consolation.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion?
If we were to propose taking an interim position from one of our in-staff, for instance, Public Works Director Stewart, that would come to us at no cost, no additional cost.
I think the world of Faye Stewart, so I think he would certainly be a good candidate for you. I don't know what his time situation is like, but I would understand your decision.
We're also in a very difficult position politically. We have a recall effort going on. We have a lot of division in the community, and there is concern for myself and others that someone coming from the outside could be considered neutral, or could be considered not as effective, not knowing what's all the play. Having somebody that understands the community and has some history in the community might be more valued at this point to guide us through this difficult time. And
certainly makes sense to me, Councilor.
Yeah, and B would be more full time. That we'd be more here at any time that we would need. So there's certainly that consideration in my mind.
Councilor Urban?
Thank you, Mayor. I believe at our agenda session meeting, one of the requests was to have a good understanding of what decisions need to be made through the expected time period of the where an interim would be needed. So I was hoping to have some of that information to judge this, the applicability of or assess the actual need of an interim. That was my base question. Do we need one? And for what decisions? That would be helpful for me to make an assessment, having a better sense of total budget over that period of time is also helpful. Thank you for the explanation on the 110. I wasn't sure if that was all. So that's the comprehensive hourly fee. So that helps. But yeah, where I'm at right now, it's without knowing how important that single point decision-making role is. That is a lot of money. I mean, we were making our decisions about a consulting firm over a maybe $15,000 to $20,000 difference. So I take that to mean that we're very budget conscious about our decisions. And so I guess my position is I'd like to get the information as requested to make the decision.
Councilor Savage?
Thank you, Mayor Solzman. I said this on Friday, but I'll reiterate again. I brought up having an internal candidate a few weeks ago and was shut down because the quality of people applying for the city manager position may go down. Perception that we're putting somebody in the position could be a red flag, and if we are asking people to apply for this position and we're using an internal candidate as the interim, my fear is that the quality of candidates are going to go down unless we actually use somebody who has declared that they're not going to seek that position. I think it would be a conflict of interest to use somebody who could potentially be applying for the position as the interim. I don't think that would be a wise decision. I'm all for being fiscally responsible, but I also feel that we're in a position here where we're making a really long-term decision, and we need to really make sure that we are doing things with the city in our hearts and making the best choices that we can, and not pushing people into positions that, although could be a good fit, it could also deter really great applicants. So I fear that may not be a good decision.
I did speak with Mr. Prothman about that, and he did tell me that they do that quite often, and that they just approach it with that if the person does come from within, that it is not a shoo-in for that position, and that's why we are putting it out to the public, and that is why we're doing applications for the job. And so I would share Councilor Mary Day's concerns just with the state of our community right now and what's going on with council. I would support, nothing against Mr. Klein, but I would support Mr. Stewart as the interim just because I think he knows this community and he is definitely qualified for the position, and it would definitely be good for our budget, that's for sure. Councilor Fleck?
Boy, I have to tell you, I have the utmost respect for Faye. I think he's, just been a gem and has done an incredible job. But other than the challenge of applying for the position, he is also our Public Works and Community Development Director. I did hear that at the agenda session that he felt he could handle it, but the problem is, I'll be honest, I think we're already we've spread that position into two. That used to be two separate directors. I just worry about, our public works being, managed appropriately. If we were going to go to an internal candidate, Jake Mr. Boone has suggested he's not applying and does have, a master's in public administration, and certainly why we created that position in the first place. Those of you who are on the budget back when that position was created, that was the primary reason we created that position, is so that that person could help transition when Richard retired. So like I said, absolutely nothing against Fay. He's a very talented and honorable man, and I respect him immensely. But I think a better solution, is to have Mr. Klein come in. Maybe even we reduce the amount of time to worry, look at our budget considerations, and have him work with Jake and Fay and Bert and our police chief to manage the city. My big concern is, there are some really pressing legal issues that are mounting. I really would prefer to have somebody with Mr. Klein's skill set, at least at the rudder, even if the department heads are doing most of the work. I fear that the price tag is going to be much more if we have some sort of legal dilemma that is not appropriately handled. And I think that there are soft and hard costs when you're talking about, the leadership of a town our size. So I would urge us not to go with an internal candidate, but if we did need to do that to save money, I think that Jake, because of his position, is a better fit.
Councilor Dreher.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Coming in, we knew that Richard Myers was going to retire someday. And in talking about the next steps, we've talked about, should we hire a professional consulting firm? And if so, how much should we pay for that? But the other side of the coin was always, is my understanding, was always, and appoint an interim. And how much, and what would that look like, and how much would that cost? So I understood that to be a cost we were going to see. I appreciate you, your diligence in looking into that. Appointing an existing department director is not cost neutral. Usually the standard is you get a 5% acting in capacity bump. I don't know how much these fellas make. It can be even more to 10 to 15% bump. So it's not cost neutral. And then you look at what you are losing in productivity. If I didn't know, I guess I should have known because you have an and in your title, but Public Works and Development Director, that's 2 jobs in one. So then it'd be like 3 jobs. And Face Tour, I also think the world of you. And I appreciate that what you brought to the conversation around bringing our community together. It is really important. I also think you're already leading from where you are, and bringing in someone with the expertise like Mr. Klein would really help us just in the transition time. We're talking October, November, December. Part of those, that's a lot of holiday time. Hopefully we're all just having fun. And we have a really robust and quick schedule with GMP to recruit during that time. So I'm not so concerned about the cost. I think that we could bring in Mr. Klein, and I would support that. I appreciate perhaps negotiating. As far as the discussions around, well, if he's working from home, sometimes I work from home, and that doesn't mean I'm working any less. Sometimes that means I'm working more because the hours just keep going, and then it's 6 o'clock. So I support Mr. Klein.
I want to address what you just said, though. When we went through this process, actually it was always going to be a from within We did actually, before we met or talked to GMP at all, we were going to always be, it was going to be from within just to get us through. And so I was actually surprised when I heard that we were searching for an interim, because actually as a council, we had not agreed to that. And so that surprised me a bit. So I'm kind of,
If I may, Mayor,
yeah,
to
absolutely.
clarify, my point is, I always assumed there was a cost to that, because even if there's an internal candidate, you're paying an increase for them to act in capacity, in a higher capacity.
Thank you. Councilor Stinnett.
Thank you. I've spent a fair amount of time thinking about this since we talked about it on Friday. I would be the last person who would wish to cast any aspersions on Mr. Stewart or the job he's done with the community, or the fact that he'd be up to this interim position. And I share Councilor Meredith's concern with the divisions in the community and kind of the climate of things the way they are now. But it's kind of one of those things that makes me wonder if, I think Commissioner Stewart could do the job as presented, but my fear is that the job might morph, need to evolve and change. A recall could throw a curveball into that. Any number of events that could happen that require significant management from the upper levels could change the game significantly. I think I definitely appreciate Councilor Meredith's sentiment that Faye could be kind of a calming force, and certainly is and has been in the community in terms of bringing the community together. At the same time, I also see the value in a set of fresh eyes and ears, and especially someone with such a breadth of experience and such perspective as his Mr. Klein has gained in his career. I've looked at, I think there's a lot of positivity to be gleaned from our interim Chief Growth's time here. The fresh eyes that he brought to a difficult situation here. I think we saw that with the fire district a number of years ago with Dean Creech, who kind of came in and brought a calming presence. I think someone who's trained to do this job and has done this job over the long term for different communities, that's the kind of expertise and presence that Mr. Klein, I'd imagine, will bring to this position as well. I think there's a lot of wisdom in bringing somebody in to take a fresh look at this and to hold down the fort and to keep things going in the interim position. I think if we're worried about Mr. Klein's time away from us, are we competing with other things in his life? The things that we would be competing in Mr. Stewart's life would be running our public works department and development departments, and I would rather compete with Mr. Klein's puppy, frankly.
It's a really sweet puppy.
I'm sure it is. It's just the thoughts that, and again, I'm happy to be enlightened from the group. It's just, that's kind of the angle. That's sort of where I see it. I don't think that Mr. Stewart couldn't do the position admirably. I worry that the position will change and become much more challenging in the near future.
Mr. Stewart, did you want to say anything or no? Okay. All right. All right. Councilor Stinnett.
I could add that I also would appreciate the information that Councilor Irwin was hoping to get with regard to the actual, kind of the calendar and a deep dive into what the city manager will be doing in the next few months, regardless.
Councilor Flack.
Madam Mayor, I move that we appoint Mr. Klein as our interim city manager.
We have a motion with a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay.
Nay.
Motion carries. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. very much.
Okay. South Lane Mental Health Update. Staff report by City Manager, Mr. Myers.
We have tonight Allie from South Lane Mental Health here to give us a brief report. We've had some issues and concerns about South Lane Mental Health over the last couple of years. We're excited to have her on board. She's been doing a great job, and we're excited to hear what kind of changes and things are going on from their end.
Thank you for being here, Allison.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Allie Canino. I'm a licensed professional counselor. My background is working with children, youth, and their families. And in January of this year, I became South Lane Mental Health's new executive director. It's been a lot to learn. I'm very new to this role, but not new to the agency. I've been with South Lane Mental Health for 8 years. I started as a youth therapist and moved through a variety of different leadership positions before becoming executive director. In terms of the flow of my time tonight, I wanted to make sure to give lots of time for y'all to ask me questions you might have. I did want to talk a little bit about some of South Lane Mental Health's current programs, as well as an update on the current workforce shortage and our staffing situation. And then I also wanted to talk about some of my intentions as we move into 2024 and where I hope to lead the organization. So over the last 2 to 3 years, South Lane Mental Health has expanded or created a handful of new programs, including our neurofeedback program, case management, and our ALAS program, which is our bilingual, bicultural, Spanish-English therapy and case management program. We serve the Latinx community in South Lane County. These programs work collaboratively with our established programs like our youth and outpatient counseling program, our substance use disorder treatment program, our medication management, and intensive outpatient programs for both youth and adults, in addition to our therapeutic foster home for adults located on Main Street. In addition to all of those programs, we also offer walk-in call-in crisis services and a school-based therapy program where we embed youth therapists in our South Lane School District schools and Creswell School District schools. We also are expanding our intern program. We host students working on their master's degrees from schools like the University of Oregon, Bushnell, Pacific University, and Portland State. So I can't avoid the elephant in the room. Despite all of those programs, we do have wait lists because of our staffing issues. You may be familiar, it's not unique to South Lane Mental Health. The entire state and even the nation is going through a mental health workforce shortage. We began to notice changes in the hiring landscape just before the COVID pandemic hit. Our therapist positions and drug and alcohol counselor positions became just difficult to fill. We actually noticed it first on our youth outpatient team. The market just became more competitive. Recent graduates had more opportunities to go into group or private practices. And then COVID didn't help. Folks who were looking to make a career change or retire got the kind of extra push that they needed when the COVID pandemic hit. So we have at least 6 open therapist positions now, including 2 drug and alcohol counselors. It's been pretty slow getting applicants. I will talk a little bit about some of the things we're doing to try to amp up our hiring efforts. And then, again, I just wanted to emphasize that this isn't unique to South Lane Mental Health. We've been in constant communication with our partners in community mental health in Eugene, Springfield, and they're all reporting very similar things. We're trying to learn from each other, but we're just not seeing enough new folks coming into the field who are interested in working in community mental health. So I didn't want to end on kind of a bummer note. I do want to say that part of my efforts is encouraging my leadership team to focus on stabilizing the agency and working on staff retention. So we've had a lot of turnover. I know that when we have turnover, it's our clients who are hardest hit. It's really difficult to have 2-3 therapists in 1 year. I don't find that acceptable. And so we are looking at our agency culture and community and how we can make sure that the staff that we have feel supported and invested in the work that we're doing. We're looking at our internship program to try to entice students who interned with us to come straight into employment with us. We're also working on expanding different training opportunities for current staff to try to prevent burnout. We're also, one of my things that I'm excited about is looking at how we can reimagine some of the services that we're currently providing, like our crisis walk-in services, to both support our current staff who are feeling overwhelmed, having to provide that service in addition to a full caseload, while also being able to expand the service so we can go back to being able to offer it Monday through Friday. And then we're also looking at kind of reinventing the field of community mental health. So I want folks to come work for us because we provide stellar and state-of-the-art clinical care to a diverse group of clients in a really whimsical and resilient community. Those are the folks that I want to pull in and get them excited to work in this field. And so we're looking at ways to kind of rebrand what community mental health is. So finally, Southland Mental Health has had a long history of having a really close relationship with the Cottage Grove community. We came out of the Cottage Grove community. And so one way that I want to breathe new life into that is by offering more community outreach opportunities for folks to get to know our staff, work towards continuing to destigmatize mental health in the community. And one of the ways that we did that, starting was this summer with our summer workshop series, where we had different mental health related topics. We had a speaker speak to folks for free, and then we had a panel of experts for discussion. We provided food. It was pretty well attended, so I'm looking forward to continuing that project in the winter with a new speaker series. So it's time that we renew our partnerships with the city, with our community partners. I can't blame COVID for all of our kind of needing to kind of go back into our little bubble, but we've got new leadership, new excitement, new ideas for the future, and so I'm looking forward to kind of getting out there and showing folks this new face of Southland Mental Health. So with that, any questions?
Questions? Councilor Stinnett.
Yes, thank you for being here. Thank you, Mayor. You spoke to internships to try to recruit new employees and also measures to try to curb burnout among your current employees. Can you delve into that more? Maybe what an internship is like, and maybe how we keep people fresh and productive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So most master's programs require students to do a practicum and an internship. An internship can be anywhere from 16 to 20 hours. So we started paying our interns, which is exciting for them. We're looking to make sure that they're getting, in addition to the supervision that they're required, really go above and beyond so they really feel like they're a part of the Southland mental health culture and our mission. We find that if we can get them excited about the work that they're doing, they're much more likely to stick around with us, and we'll hire them pretty immediately. So they'll graduate from school, we'll let them take some time off, and then they get to start working with us and already have clients on their caseload, so client care isn't disrupted. And then in terms of preventing burnout, we're looking at things that our culture was doing that didn't really support clinicians and staff and being able to take the appropriate amount of time off. One of the silver linings of COVID is that people couldn't come to work sick, but I definitely remember being a new therapist and coming to work very sick and having staff tell me that I needed to go home. That's unacceptable for me. I want staff to know that they can take the time that they need to heal or take care of their families, and that their jobs are safe, and we'll help them take care of their clients. They don't have to hold all of that on their own. And then, we're just doing little things. Like you'd be surprised what free snacks can do for staff morale.
Councilor Merryday.
So you spoke to your understaffed capacity. What would a full staff look like for Southland Mental Health? How many positions as therapists?
Yeah, so it's a difficult question to ask. We've readjusted our staffing because we're having such a hard time getting new applicants, but we have at least 6 open therapist positions split between our adult and youth outpatient teams. If we were fully staffed, we've had about 20 outpatient therapists total, and then we really should have at least 3 drug and alcohol counselors in our substance use disorder program.
And has housing been mentioned as an issue about attracting staff? If they said we'd like to come here but can't find a place that we can afford?
For some of our staff, I think that's been a deterrent. Most of our staff, I believe, like 85% of our staff commute down from Eugene, Springfield, even sometimes as far north as Albany and Sweet Home. So what we are looking for is how we can stay competitive with our wages and salaries. Like, we have to go above what our fellow community mental health providers are paying in Eugene, Springfield, because we need people to come to us, even if they don't want to live here, like, come and still be excited about this community.
Thank you.
Councilor Savage.
Thank you so much, Mayor Solsby. Thank you so much for presenting. It's such a valuable resource in our community. Our family has spent quite a bit of time in your waiting room. I have a son who has gone through your wraparound services and have proven to be very beneficial. Granted, it's been a number of years. But one of the barriers that we discovered was the insurance that was accepted. So we had private pay insurance, and at the time there were so many patients on the waiting list that it became known that it was Medicare, Medicaid only, and if you were private pay, you had to go elsewhere. Is that still something that is protocol, or have you guys started taking more insurances?
We've expanded a little bit. So some of that is our mission, is to ensure that Medicaid clients are able to access resources, which only like 8 years ago, there was a plethora of resources for folks with commercial insurance and hardly any for folks with Medicaid. Since then, things have switched a little bit. The landscape's changed. So we do have agency agreements with a handful of commercial insurance providers. And so we can take some folks with commercial insurance if we've got the space. Commercial insurance doesn't like to credential people who don't have a license, and it's very difficult in community mental health to hold on to somebody with a license. Once they get their license, usually they're out the door in private practice. So we have to wait until we can convince the commercial insurance company that they should credential us as an entire agency. And so we do have a few, like Providence, Pacific Source, Moda, or insurance companies that we have contracts with.
Councilor Irvin.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you for being here. Over the years, there's been a number of conversations around mental health here, whether it relates to behavioral issues in town that affect just quality of life, to being able to make determinations as to someone's status to be able to defend themselves in a court in that system. And there seemed to be a number of questions of, well, what is South Lane Mental Health doing? Are they, where do they fit in the community? And how does somebody, that's in need, or what would be the kind of the spectrum of the profile of someone in need that would come and receive services, and how would they do that? I think the insurance is one of the questions, right? How is it funded? Could you, yeah. I know you've touched on some of that in the intro, but just on that kind of broader.
Absolutely. So typically folks get connected through us. Either they call us directly, and we have an intake coordinator that will walk them through the entire process. So if they don't have insurance, they don't know what type of insurance they have, they've got Medicaid, but they've never been to the doctor before, so they don't know that they're on Medicaid. We can help them walk them through the entire process. Our intake coordinator is also bilingual. She speaks English and Spanish, so we can try to help walk somebody through the process. We do have the capacity to help folks get onto Medicaid if they think they might qualify, so that can be useful for folks who don't have insurance, or again, don't know if they have insurance. They'll go through the intake during our mental health assessment, which takes about an hour, and that's with a therapist or a qualified mental health professional. QHP is how we're credentialed. We'll then get a sense of everything that's going on. So do we need to bring in case management to help them with housing? Do we need to bring in medication management? Would they be a good fit for neurofeedback? What's going on in their life? How can we be of best services for them? Should we walk them over to the SEDS building to get them an assessment for drug and alcohol use? Where are they, right now? How can we be of most help? And then they're assigned a therapist to be their kind of primary point of contact. Southland Mental Health has a long history of not getting involved in court mandated therapy. It's just not, it's a specialty, and it's just not something we specialize in. It's not to say that we won't take folks who are mandatory, it's a mandatory part of their sentencing, with the exception of our SEDS program. But it's not something that we actively advertise. In terms of other ways that folks can get connected with us, again, this is the importance of our partnerships with other community members, but we'll often talk to the Cottage Grove Emergency Department, the officials at different schools. We'll talk to the staff at the community center, and if they know of somebody in the community, the Family Relief Nursery, if they have somebody who is interested, but they just don't know, they can't make the call. It's too difficult. They can't get into our offices. They'll call us, and we'll see what we can work out. So I've gone out into the community, and I've met somebody and been like, see, I'm not scary. Let's come talk about this. Let's see what kind of services we can get started for you. So that's the gold standard. That's where we were before COVID. COVID interrupted that flow a lot. We're trying to get back into the rhythm of making sure our community partners know, call us. We'll see what we can work out to support you. Our walk-in crisis or call-in crisis services is another way that folks can access or start services. Sometimes when you're in the heat of a crisis, that's the best time. Kind of strike while the iron is hot. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it paints a broader picture. You had mentioned the drug and alcohol abuse. I think you said counseling.
Yeah.
Is in one of the things that we've recognized is lacking here is a Buckley House or a Serenity Lane. Are there plans in the re-envisioning of the future that would include that kind of an inpatient kind of approach?
It's needed. I would love that. I don't know if Southland Mental Health is the perfect partner for that, but we're definitely interested in, if Southland Mental Health can't be the entity that brings these services in, we can help network, right? We can help talk to groups that are doing it really successfully in other places and seeing what that magic combination is to try to bring it in down to Cottage Grove. I will say, our SEDS program right now is one of the programs that's probably struggling with staffing the most. They need 3 to 4 counselors. Right now, I have one full-time counselor who's also the manager of the program. So it's difficult for me to commit to expanding a program that is just struggling the way it is right now. It's a difficult field to talk. There's a lot of burnout and turnover.
Thank you.
Councilor Dreher.
Thank you, Mayor Spolsby. Thank you, Ms. Canino, for being here, and thank you for your leadership. I've definitely noticed the way people talk about Southland Mental Health since you came on as in this leadership role has really been astounding. I'm interested to hear about how you're working with youth. Youth mental health is a top concern of mine. I know there have been different countywide surveys where people really want to invest in youth mental health services but come into those barriers such as lack of workforce. And if you think about, I think we all collectively experienced trauma and saw what depths of despair and social isolation felt like during COVID for the most sound-minded of us all. Then you look at our youth and our children who are disconnected from school, sometimes family members, and getting back into kind of society and working together. I'm really concerned about our youth. Can you tell me a little bit more about the work you're doing in partnerships with schools?
Yes, I will try to be brief because this is where my heart is. when I started at Southland Mental Health, I'll be honest with y'all, I thought it was going to be 2 years. I thought I was going to be one of those clinicians that get their license and then would move on to something else. And I stuck around because of not just Southland Mental Health's youth program, but how I felt like the community of Cottage Grove really prioritized youth mental health and youth resources, right? I mean, mental health for youth doesn't have to be sitting in an office with a counselor. It's sports. It's, finding them after school activities to partake in, having a supportive school environment, right? Having adults in their lives who want to see them succeed. So I was just struck by how many families came in to access resources for their children who maybe for themselves were like not convinced. Like they weren't really sure. They didn't feel, I could tell they did not feel comfortable in our offices. But they wanted to make every effort to support their youth. So that's one of the reasons I stuck around. So our youth program is dynamic. We try to change to fit the needs of our youth at the time. So when COVID started, I had every youth therapist coming to me saying, no way is telehealth going to work. Now I would say maybe 60% of our youth clients still use telehealth because they've just learned they're more comfortable communicating over a screen, and we'll work with them on that. That's not going to be a barrier for us. We've gotten some grant funding to offer groups in schools, so so students don't need to be clients of ours to participate in those mental health groups. It means we can remove some of the barriers for families who don't have insurance or their youth have commercial insurance that they can't afford because copays are so high, or we don't take it. We have a series of spaces in our main facility at 1345 Birch, like play therapy rooms, sand tray rooms, and then we also have an art therapy space and 2 sensory spaces. So one movement room for bigger movements, dance therapy, yoga, things for kiddos who need their bodies to be moving at all times. And then we also have a sensory space for a lot of our littles who, because of the nature of the trauma they experienced, they need their hands to be messy and into lots of different things. So we incorporate, it's a type of therapy that sort of blends occupational therapy with trauma work. So in addition to that, we have a media room where we utilize video games to help kiddos with impulse control and team building. I'd never used those with my clients, but it's successful for other folks. But then we also do what the youth like. So if that's going for walks, taking them for drives, going to Dutch Bros, like we'll meet the youth where they're at and try to build a connection. I coach my therapist that if they can build a strong connection with their youth, then you're unstoppable. Then you can do anything from there. You can work through any problem together, but it starts with that connection.
Councilor Stennett.
Thank you again. So in response to Councilor Irvin's question, you had talked about how you kind of start to bridge the divide and get someone help that needs it to kind of break down stigma and reach someone in crisis. Taking that into account while also taking into account the fact that you have staffing shortages that put people on wait lists, is there ever, it seems like there has to be a cold calculus at some point of who needs it more and how do we prioritize that and how do you do that when I believe everyone should talk to a counselor?
Yes. So we do prioritize to the best of our ability if a referral comes in from a community partner. So school, emergency department, the police department, the community center. We will do our best to try to prioritize referrals from community partners. We also try to prioritize folks who come to us in crisis sessions. They come for like multiple crisis sessions. It's just easier for everybody. Let's just get you in for services. You're coming in anyway. So we will try to prioritize those folks. We also will try to prioritize anybody who we feel is may hurt themselves. So anyone with suicidal ideation, we'll try to prioritize getting them in as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Councilor Flack.
Well, I just want to say a big thank you to Southland Mental Health. Community sharing has benefited from your services so much, I can't even begin to tell you the times that I've had therapists come into our office to pick up food boxes for a client or to help a client who's having some mental health challenges get through the services. And if we ultimately had to, eject somebody from the agency, how they've really helped to work to get that person back into a place where they're able to receive services again. So I just want to say a big thank you, and what a community asset. Thank you again.
Allison. Is it Allie or Allison?
Allie, Allison, if I'm in trouble.
Oh, okay. Allie. All right. Just for a point of reference for myself and others that may not know, how many locations does South Lane Mental Health have in Cottage Grove?
It's a great question, and I have to
Count 'em
walk
out.
through it in the map in my brain. So we have our main office is on 1345 Birch. We also have another property on 1245 Birch. And then our adult foster home is on Main Street. We manage the duplexes, so the apartments behind our adult foster home on Main Street, but we don't provide clinical services. Like, we're the landlord. We're not. It's not a clinical program. Our case management and adult outpatient team is here in the downtown building across from U.S. Bank. And then we have our SEDS program, which is just behind me. Here downtown.
So 6.
Yes.
Okay. And then also, so I was under the impression we didn't have any drug or alcohol treatment programs in Cottage Grove, but counseling we do, but it's not the actual treatment of.
It's the treat. We don't have
Methadone.
detox.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do methadone. We do host HIV Alliance does a needle exchange, and we provide them a parking lot. We do counseling and groups and peer support services for folks in recovery. We'll also help connect people with detox and residential services outside the area if that's what they need. So folks can come in, do a screen with us. We'll help them identify kind of where they are on their recovery journey and then help connect them with those resources.
Okay. And then when you say that you have 20 therapists,
you
should have 20 therapists. Yeah. And that would be for all the locations?
That would be for all the locations. Our adults outpatient counseling and our youth outpatient counseling.
Okay. And then also, I was curious when you said wait time. How long is that waiting list? How long would someone expect to have to wait to see a counselor?
Yes. Our adult outpatient services, it could be anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. Uh-huh. For youth, it's longer. It could be anywhere from 1 to 2 months.
All right. Anyone else? Thank you so much, Allie.
Thank you so much.
Item C, Cottage Grove Area Chamber of Commerce in Travel Lane County. Cascades and Coast Tourism Data Update. Staff report by Mr. Myers.
So tonight we have Andy Vibora from Travel Lane County, or Eugene Cascades to Coast, and Georgia Haskell, the CEO for Cottage Grove Chamber of Commerce. They're here to talk about some of the tourism data from the last summer season.
Thank you, Mayor, councilors. My name is Andy Vibora. I'm Vice President of Stakeholder Relations at Travel Lane County. About every 18 months, I try to get out to each community in Lane County to do an update like this and just share a little bit about who we are and some of the results of the past year. So I'll be touching on those topics tonight and start with a slide here that just talks about when we were incorporated, which was 1979. So we're a 501c6, same as the Chamber of Commerce. And but our specific focus is on tourism and tourism investment. And okay. And so we started out, though, serving just Eugene Springfield in our contract with those chambers of commerce, and that was until 1993 when we became countywide. And then in 2008, 2009, after about a year or more of going around and talking to stakeholders throughout the county, we were renamed to Travel Lane County, and we market the region as the Eugene Cascades and Coast region. We are a public-private partnership. We have 30 board members and 8 to 10 ex officio board members at any time. You might be familiar with Julie Johns, Territorial Seed Company, who's been a longtime board member, just served as our chair for the past 2 years.
Our mission is to grow overnight stays, to create this vibrant year-round economy in Lane County. And we do that really through, again, a partnership that begins with our business partners. And that's at the center of that circle. It got a little muddy in there, but we have about 550 partners right now, and we expect to grow that pretty substantially over the next couple of years with a new membership model. But we have reciprocal relationships with all 10 chambers of commerce in the county, and we really value that partnership. We're the destination marketing organization for the county, but then we also work with the regional destination marketing organizations that we overlap with. There are 7 of those throughout the state. Those are paid for and commissioned by Travel Oregon. So you can see there we overlap with Willamette Valley Visitor Association, Oregon Coast Visitors Association. And then we have Travel Oregon marketing the state to the rest of the country and the world. So we have this distribution chain of information that we can share what's going on locally with our partners up that chain. There we go. So what does it look like in terms of the industry? And I know that's kind of small there, but that top line is destination spending. And so we have destination spending, which is those are the dollars that are brought into our area from our visitors. So we're a traded sector, and you can see in 2022, the calendar year, $1.1 billion was spent in our county. If you look back a couple of years, it's $414 million during COVID. So you can see the hit that the industry took, but how quickly, again, it came back. It's a very resilient industry, and it just shows the pent-up demand that people had for travel. People love to travel, and we're in a beautiful area for travel, and so it did come back very, very quickly. What we like to see is down below here how it distributes throughout the economy. A lot of people think that all those dollars are spent just on accommodations, but the largest share, 35 cents on each dollar, is spent in food and beverage. Because whether you're staying with family and friends or in commercial lodging, you got to eat and drink. So, and we've got great food and beverage here. So that's pretty consistent. And those percentages throughout those areas don't change much year to year, but we like to see them all grow. This is a chart looking back at the calendar year 2022. And this is transient lodging taxes. So that's one of our key indicators on how the economy is doing here in terms of tourism. And you can see those red bars starting really in late winter through spring into summer. We're exceeding and setting records month over month. And that was coming out of COVID again. And the 2 factors that drive TLT, it's not only the demand, how many rooms are being sold, but it's also the rate. And hotels were catching up. The rates are higher. And so not only were the hotels filling back up, but the rates were higher, and it just drove TLT through the roof. Peaked out in July, no surprise there. First month of our fiscal year that we're reporting on to the Board of Commissioners tomorrow, World Athletics Championship. So one month all-time record, $2.6 million in TLT. And then you can see into the fall, August and September, we're still good, and then there's no data. And that's because the county began a shift when the city of Eugene was no longer the collection agency for the TLT, for the region. That shifted to the Department of Revenue. You might be familiar with this. Every community is struggling with this now. We haven't even gotten the last quarter of March or April, May, and June of our last fiscal year. We haven't even gotten the revenue yet. So we're all struggling to not only get that revenue, but then to be able to report out on it. So hopefully down the road, we'll get into a rhythm and be able to give you some updated numbers. The good news is, again, our industry is the fastest growing sector in Lane County. You can see that dip in employment again. Our sector took a big hit in terms of employees, but it's grown back to pre-COVID numbers. And actually in early 2023, we exceeded the 2019 figures. But the Lane Workforce Partnership projects 6,100 new jobs by 2030 in our industry. And we're all kind of scratching our head trying to figure out where we're going to get those employees. So just like every industry, we're struggling a lot with that, but we are working with our workforce partners to try to figure out ways to get more interest in the industry and get more employees in that pipeline. So we'll keep working on that. I'm going to shift gears here a little bit, talk about a little bit how we do our work. We have 3 target markets. Destination marketing focuses on tourism or the leisure traveler. And then conventions and sports, it's the planners, the people who are planning to bring those events to communities. And so that's who we target. And I put the extended customer journey graphic in there because it really applies to all three target markets in similar ways. You have to inspire people to want to come to your region. And we do that through owned, paid, and earned media. And then a lot of times, maybe we'll go right from inspiration right to booking, but a lot of times people want to research your area. And so again, that goes to your owned assets, your website, all the other content that you provide to give them information about your region. Then we book them, they come here, they have an amazing time, as we all know, and then that inspires them to either come back themselves or maybe encourage family and friends to come back. And so that cycle continues in a perfect world, and we're seeing a lot of that happen. So on the leisure advertising side, we've been running a Come and Stay campaign. A lot of our ads, you'll see the imagery really features what's common across the destination, which are natural areas that are accessible and just beautiful, and that is common across all 4,700 square miles. But then as you drill down into individual ads, you'll see what we call trip motivators that are specific to those communities. And so in the ad in the bottom that's specific to Cottage Grove, you'll see the covered bridges, which is what we lead with down here as the covered bridge capital of the West. One of the exciting things, as Richard said, is how we're using data now. And so we have a data platform called Zartico. They aggregate lots of data points for us, and we're able to analyze that. And two main data points are device IDs, because we're all carrying phones, and people know where you're at based on where your phone is, and spend data, credit card data. And we can aggregate that information and start to analyze that, look at where people who are coming into our area are moving to, where the destinations are going to, and how they're moving throughout the county. So as we started to look at this early in 2022, we looked at top markets of origin for us, and we saw that San Francisco Bay Area is not a huge percentage of the overall visitor market at 3.7%, but those who come spend a lot of money on average, almost $300 a day. So we looked at that and said, okay, let's use that data and set up a campaign and see if we can move that needle and move those Bay Area travelers up into the top markets of origin. So we developed this campaign. It's a billboard campaign in the Bay Area. We had 5 billboards, a couple of them electronic, others static. And over a 3-month period, we generated 29 million impressions. Encourage people to come to our website and learn more about our beautiful area and these images that we were showing them. And through that, we were able to retarget messages back to those people who came to our website with more information about our area. And that created those 9,000 monthly click-throughs. And so, lo and behold, if you look at the data, which might be a little hard on this chart, but the top one shows, again, people who have come to our website and then how many days later they actually visited our area. And nowhere in there is the San Francisco Bay Area. So this is pre-campaign, and then the bottom is post-campaign, and you see that now San Francisco has moved into our top 5 markets of origin. So we were pretty encouraged with that, and we're going to continue to use that. And the exciting part is, which you'll hear a little bit from our partners at the Chamber, is we can really drill down into points of interest around the county. We've segmented sections of the county so we can really slice and dice the data in lots of different ways. So the Explore campaign takes a little different focus. So most of our advertising is in those outside areas, 500-mile drive market or direct fly markets to bring visitors here. This is focused on locals and nearby audiences to really raise the awareness and pride in our area. We want all the people within our county to go out and explore our own county, because we got some beautiful areas, and we run into people all the time that don't know much about our county. And so these are some examples, again, on the left side there. Those are billboards. Those are running on an electronic billboard at the base of the Washington Jefferson Bridge. And we have all of our communities represented. And again, you can see some of the imagery of the trip motivators for those other communities. The Explore ad in the middle is a print ad with a QR code that, again, goes to our Explore page. People can learn more about our county. And then the Cottage Grove ad there. Again, lots and lots of digital advertising, because digital ads are great for us to track and and follow up on folks. One of the other opportunities we had with this Explore campaign was this Let's Go advertising campaign with Lithia Toyota of Springfield. During the World Athletics Championships lead up, had an opportunity to work very closely with KMTR, and Lithia was a client of KMTR, and they came to us and said, would you like to be a host of a TV commercial series with Lithia? And I said, wow. They didn't want to necessarily use one of their on-air campaign or on-air people. They wanted somebody from the community who'd been around a while. And I said, sure. So I showed up at the very first one, and they said, okay, we're going to do a 60-second commercial. Meet us at this place. No script, no information. And I kind of muddled my way through that first one. I said, okay, now things are going to change. I get to pick the locations. I get to write the scripts. And they said, fantastic. So got to do that. We did about a dozen or 15 commercials, and this was one of them from last year.
Andy from Travel Lane County out exploring the Eugene Cascades and Coast region. Today in the South Willamette Valley, the covered bridge capital of the West. The Covered Bridges Scenic Bikeway runs 36 miles from downtown Cottage Grove to Dorena Reservoir. So walk, ride, or roll along the scenic Row River. Historic Main Street offers shopping and dining experiences, and they even offer a bike share program, making it easy to explore the city. With the holidays right around the corner, you're going to want to come to Christmas in Cottage Grove beginning on December 3rd. Activities include a tree lighting, Santa and Mrs. Claus, food vendors, and more. North of Cottage Grove in Cresswell, mark your calendars for the 19th annual Winter Lights event. On Saturday, December 10th from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., this event includes a holiday market, a visit from Mrs. Claus, food vendors, and more. Be sure to join us next time on Let's Go with Lithia Toyota of Springfield.
So it ran a little smoother in real life, but I think you get a sense of the kind of the spirit of those commercials. It gave us a great opportunity to kind of partner with them and get our name out. And also highlight some just awesome locations around the community. Quickly touching on our convention business. Conventions, as you can imagine, was shut down during COVID, and it's been slow to come back, but we're really encouraged. Bookings were up 60% this year, or I should say 60% of bookings were new, and they were up 20%. So we're seeing a lot more activity. Got thrown a little bit of a curveball with the fire at Valley River Inn and now the remodel of Valley River Inn. They won't open until later in 2024. So all of that space for meetings is out of commission right now. So it's making the graduate very, very busy. But we have other partners, and it's encouraging to see the growth in convention business. On sporting events, not thinking about the big sporting events like the track meets and university athletics. Our team at the Sports Commission works with a lot of those partners, but also, again, trying to bring other types of events to our community, whether they're volleyball, baseball, softball tournaments, or some that you may never have heard of. So we've had 2 great rowing championships out at Dexter Reservoir this year, the Pac-12 championships and the U.S. Northwest Masters. Northwest Masters is coming back next year. We also had a Professional Disc Golf Association U.S. Masters that was centered out of Oak Ridge that used several courses. And then you all are familiar with the great work Mike does with the Oregon Grand Fondo down here. So that's just touching on a few of the great sports events that were happening in our region. As I mentioned, owned content is super important. Our website was completely retooled this spring. We were very excited about it. It's been a long time coming, and it's been a spectacular redo. We had, in last fiscal year, 1.1 million unique users to our website. So it's a lot of unique individuals coming to look at content about our region. We're very excited about that. We've got great content writers that are always refreshing our blogs and other content, and I just put on the list there about 15 or 20 of the blogs that have been recently updated that mention Cottage Grove businesses in South Lane County. So if you haven't been to our site, I really highly encourage you to go there. We also just launched in the last couple of weeks an email that comes out. It was a frontline newsletter for some of our frontline workers to know what was happening in the week ahead. That's now available to anybody in the community. So if you want to get an email in your inbox every week saying these are the hot items that are coming up throughout the county in the week ahead, you'll be in the know, and all your friends will come to you when they want to know what to do. Lastly, I just want to say thank you. You all did such a fabulous job hosting the team from Botswana for the World Athletics Championships. I know you created a lot of great memories. They appreciated it so much. And during the Diamond League Championships here a couple of weeks ago, the pre-classic, I know Sean got to go and see some of the team members who were here visiting again. So thank you again for that. And I would just want to take 1 second to introduce two of my co-workers, our Vice President of Destination Marketing, Natalie Inouye, and our President and CEO, Kerry Westland, who has a special word of thanks.
Mayor and Council, thank you for a moment to just say on behalf of the Traveling County Board of Directors and our entire staff team, we want to extend our thanks to Richard. I arrived a year before Richard. I've worked with him his entire career here at the city, and as you may know, our organization gave Richard our highest award several years ago as a community leader. And the board spent some time talking about these last few decades and asked me to just come to one of your formal meetings, and just happens to be Richard's last one, to say thank you and extend our appreciation. It's a bittersweet congratulations we offer, because we're really going to miss Richard's leadership, and he's done a great job on behalf of your community on so many projects over the years. I know you're familiar with all of them, and I won't read them because I want to hear from the chamber folks, but I've got a letter for Richard, and I'll give one to your recorder to put into the record. Thank you, Richard.
Hello, Mayor, Council, thank you. I'm actually just going to introduce Stephen Long. He's the board member and the chair of the Tourism Committee, and he's done all the real hard work on our end. So I'm also going to push the button.
Thank you for this opportunity to talk about tourism in Cottage Grove, and really appreciate Annie's warm-up and the information that you got on what's going on at the county level. And I'd like to talk a little bit about how we feel, tourism is an important aspect of building a strong and vibrant community in Cottage Grove. So while community support is important and an essential base for a vibrant Cottage Grove business sector, visitor spending can be seen as the icing on the cake. And the Cottage Grove area has many assets attractive to visitors, and it is important that we review what visitors are looking for and what they spend their money on. Before I get down into the Cottage Grove specific data, I will provide a quick summary of the Willamette Valley visitor profile and who's coming to the Willamette Valley area. Travel Oregon hired the firm Destination Analysts to study travelers to Oregon during 2021 and 2022. They found that visitors to the Willamette Valley average 53 years of age, skew slightly female, usually married or partnered, reported high average household incomes of $120,744. The average length of stay was 6.1 days. Half of the Willamette Valley visitors were taking a vacation or leisure trip, while most of the remaining visitors came to visit family and friends. And that was really something that stood out. 25% of visitors to the Willamette Valley are visiting family and friends. And then if I look at, I have some visitors coming next month, that makes a lot of sense. But they're also an important part of our tourism economy. Top activities include, as Andy mentioned, food and drink, outdoor recreation, scenic rides, shopping, business and family related events, and arts and cultural heritage. And 89.6% of visitors to the Willamette Valley reported that they would likely return again in the next 12 months. And I think that's important information too, that when people are coming, they're enjoying their stay and they're coming again. And so that gives us a good overall picture of Willamette Valley visitors. And now we can look in more detail at visitors to Cottage Grove. So Travel County, as Andy had mentioned, had hired the data collection and analysis firm Zartico to provide us with insights that we can assist us in making strategic decisions based upon movement of people and economic possibilities. And then, as Andy said, that data is collected from a couple of sources. One is, our device data, and then also credit card sales. Screening criteria include the facts that visitor must originate from greater than 60 miles from Cottage Grove, and we're looking at this data, and that they must visit an identified point of interest. And when you see in these charts, you'll see the acronym POI, and that stands for point of interest. So Georgia and I had met with Stephen Hoshaw of Travel County this summer for over an hour and went through some of the data that's being generated through this data collection. And what we asked Stephen to do is, can we break down some of that for Cottage Grove specific data? And we got a couple of charts from him, and I'm going to go over those here. So the first chart was created, analyzed visitors to Travel County's website, and then after they made that visit, who actually came to Cottage Grove and visited. And that's important. So, we get the first flush, some going on digitally and taking a look at what they might want us to do in Cottage Grove, and then they actually show up. And so some of the top points of interest where they showed up was the top one was Middlefield Golf. Bohemia Park was number 2. Cottage Grove Speedway, the Cottage Bowl, and Chambers Covered Bridge. And we had asked for, Steve, could you give us the top 5? But he gave us a little more. And so, we have the Cottage Grove Armory, Cottage Theater, and then the shops at Gateway. And I think some of that, when we're taking a look at that data, it was kind of surprising. But we also noticed that, our partner, the city, has 3 of those top points of interest and control of that. So, the city is making the investment also, and the tourists are coming. We have, the Armory has been used for the community, but we're also seeing people from outside the area taking a look at that and want to take advantage. And definitely taking advantage of the golf opportunity. And then Bohemia Park also. So the next. So then we have this chart, the most visited points of interest. And this was regardless of whether people looked at the website or not. So these are travelers, again, outside that 60-mile range, and where they're coming. And so when you see Walmart, definitely is the leader here. But what that represents is that's not us going to Walmart and shopping. That's people who are traveling. And actually, when you see a lot of these top ones here, the Subway, the McDonald's, Gateway Plaza, Best Western, Dutch Bros, etc., those are travelers that are taking advantage of the easy access and availability of Exit 174. And they're spending money there. They're visiting all these sites as part of their travel. And that's important too. And as we look further down, we see, and it's kind of cut off there, the Cottage Grove Chamber of Commerce Visitor Center is getting visitors. So we know we try hard to bring them down to our historic downtown Cottage Grove area. And so they are coming there, and they are checking out when they go to the visitor center and they get their brochures, they start walking Main Street for the most part. And that's important. We'd love to, as the data keeps collecting, have that visitor center move on up the list. But that's the reality of Cottage Grove and that exit is a lot of visitors, are maybe stocking up for they're doing some camping or stuff, so they stop at Walmart to get their supplies before they head out to the campground. Let's see, the third chart is data on top tourism feeder markets and spending data. And so there's another acronym up there, DMA, which stands for Designated Market Area, which is similar to a metro area. So because Eugene Springfield is within the designated radius, it's not really included in this data because we are part of the Eugene Springfield DMA. So we're looking at people outside that. And our top visitor market is Portland. And so that's maybe a little different than Lane County as a whole, where we saw that they had different feeder markets. We also have kind of at the bottom of our list, but also a important one is the San Francisco, Oakland, and San Jose area. And what you see is even though they are a small percentage of the overall visits, they also contribute a fair amount on the revenue side. So Portland is our biggest feeder market, and that's more than 30% of the visitors to the Cottage Grove area. And that's important, and we'll look at the next chart when that comes up, how important that becomes to us. But then you look at the other, the middle group there, and that's I-5 corridor travelers. And so it makes a lot of sense. We have Seattle, Tacoma, and then we also have the Sacramento, the Desto area, and then even within Oregon, we have Medford, the Klamath Falls area. And so there's a number I need to kind of investigate further because on average, the spends are about 75, average spend per person is $75 to near $90. And then we have Medford, Klamath Falls at $137 average. So I got to figure out what they're spending that on and how to bring everyone up to the same kind of par on that. So, you get a lot of data and you try to make sense of it. And sometimes you have to kind of dig even deeper when you're looking at that. So the next chart which is my last chart, and this is really important, and I have to again thank Chappaqua County and the partnership that we have, and their willingness to sit down with us and say, we'll generate this data specific to you so we can use that and try to figure how to strategize and improve tourism for the city. So we're looking at the Portland metro area, which is our largest feeder market, and you're now looking at overnight stays versus day trips. And as you go to the left in 2021, you're seeing it's pretty much dominated by the day trips. And then somewhere in May or June, you start seeing, now we're getting some more overnight stays. And then it's leveling out a little bit. And then you see April, May, June, and July of 2023, and you're seeing overnight stays being a greater part of that visit from the Portland metro area. And that's awesome because that's what we want. We want, it's great if they come and stay for the day, but let's spend the night and now stay for a weekend and really explore Cottage Grove. There's something about this data I want to discuss. So, that's great, but there are also some factors that may have contributed to that. So Cottage Bowl did host the state women's bowling championships. So we'll see that April and May. And we actually had an issue with not having enough hotels in the community to actually provide the rooms that we needed for everything. So some of those bowlers definitely came from the Portland metro area. So Gran Fondo, we tried to convince them to make it a weekend and not just a day trip, and a lot of hikers come from the Portland area. So I don't know how that will play out. What I'd love to see is when the next round of data comes in and the next time we come and talk, that is still, that our Portland people are doing more overnight stays than just day trips. So, looking forward to 2024, we see several projects and activities that will benefit tourism in this community. And I've got to get my list. I'll just read it right off the screen. So some of the projects we know that are going on and will be a benefit to tourism is going to be the Bohemia Park Entry Project that's happening, the Main Street Refinement Plan project. Lane County Parks levy improvements will start. The money will come in, and annual planning will start. And I've met with the Parks Advisory Commission and also, with the Lane County Parks Division on what's happening at Baker Bay. And I'm excited about the investment that will be made in that asset. And then Lane County Parks formation of the Covered Bridge Task Force in the spring of 2024 to address funding for repair and preservation of bridges. So as has already been mentioned, we're about covered bridges and plus. And one thing is that I learned is if traffic is not going through the bridge, you don't get any road taxes to repair it out. So we have 2 bridges that you can drive through. And the rest really aren't, there's no budget for maintenance or repair. And, the Parks Division, Lane County understands that's an issue, and we understand that's a concern. And so I look forward to a task force being put together in 2024, and I think we're going to work that up to the state level so we can preserve covered bridges throughout the state and try to find a stable funding mechanism, which is always important. Even at at Baker Bay, it was really a good example of what happens. You get some funding and you can make improvements, but if you don't have that maintenance and you start seeing the damage and what happens when deferred maintenance happens, it's anything, then you're left with, we got to start all over again, and you're asking taxpayers for another levy, where it would be great to just get it up to a certain level and maintain that going out. So I wanted to talk a little bit about many people, explore digitally where they want to visit, and there's Travel Lane County's website, there's a Chamber of Commerce's website, but I think what we forget is every day, every week, they want these. They call and they say, hey, can you send me a brochure on bridges or waterfalls? And this just happens to be the Eugene Cascades and Coast guide, and this is the one with us, Cottage Grove on. There's different covers, but this is the one that has Cottage Grove on the covers. And then also, when you open it up and there's this little flyer that's here, you'll get a good example of the full page ad that the city has put in here. And then if you happen to have time to look through, Cottage Grove is well represented is the bridges, the waterfalls. It's got everything, and some of the private enterprises that we're also advertising in here. So that's still an important part of what the Chamber does every day. We also have the ability to scan a QR code, and people can find out about movies at certain locations. They can follow a little trail. And so that's the digital part, but we also have the old school paper part. To wrap up, the development of our tourism market, has its challenges. We could use another hotel, have one come back, and hopefully we'll see someone take the challenge of that with the Village Green. But we believe the rewards are worth the effort for our local business community, and we're very appreciative, and it's really important to have the strong partnerships, and the city is definitely a very strong partner in the tourism side. Travel Lane County and the Lane County Parks, and I really love working with all these people because they're really committed to what I say is let people realize the gem that Cottage Grove is. And we work tirelessly to let everyone else appreciate what we have here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item D, designation of voting delegate for League of Oregon Cities annual membership meeting. Staff report by Mr. Myers.
So, building on what Andy said, there is a convention coming to Eugene. The League of Oregon Cities is going to be there in October, and we have 3 council members that are going. And typically we need to designate at least one voting delegate for the annual business meeting on October 14th at the conference. And so we need to have that designated so we can let them know who is voting.
Councilor Savage.
Thank you. Just in full transparency, we'd be voting for new board members for the LOC, and I'm on the other side of that committee interviewing board members that are going to be proposed, so I don't think that I should be that voting delegate.
Councilor Stennett.
Who else is going, if you don't mind reminding me? Councilor Dreer.
And Councilor Fleck.
Okay.
And I will go too.
Oh, you're going to.
Mm-hmm. And I would be happy to do that if no one else wants it. You're already, Councilor Fleck.
Can I recommend, Madam Mayor, that you be the voting delegate and I be the alternate?
Sounds great. Thank you. All right. Item E, November and December City Council meetings. Staff report by Mr. Myers.
So about this time every year we look at the November and December calendars, and this year is even more complicated because you do need to look at the GMP calendar as well. But we have no conflicts in November for conferences or holidays. And so we can have both of those meetings. In fact, the meeting after Thanksgiving, you do have a work session with GMP, so we wouldn't want to cancel that. But the December meeting, the second meeting in December, falls on December 25th. I won't be here, but I'm sure that the rest of you will want to decide whether you want to have a council meeting that night or not.
I think Councilor Irvin suggested doing a white elephant gift exchange.
That wasn't serious.
I'm definitely good with canceling Christmas's meeting.
Christmas meeting, not Christmas.
We're not canceling Christmas. Not the Grinch.
Now, if there is a need, then we can schedule another meeting in December if we do need one as a result of the recruitment process and everything, to cancel that one.
Okay, thank you. All right. Business from the city manager.
And we did leave off concerns from council. So we should have an F there for concerns
I skipped it. Concerns from council. Councilor Savage.
Thank you so much, Mayor Soulsby. I mentioned this on Friday. It was such a joy to see you at the Peace Unity dedication for the Peace Bowl on Thursday, and I was trying to hit 3 different events, and I missed your talk on how you currently bring peace and unity to Cottage Grove, and so I was hoping, crossing my fingers, that you would touch bases on that so that we can all hear it. I'm sad that I missed it, but I'm so glad that you were there, and I would love to hear what you said. And so I'll let you hang on that because I'm not done. I got an email late this evening, right before we started City Council, from Jameson Otten, the CEO with LTD, and he would like everybody to know that vets and their family members will be riding for free on Friday, September 29th if you are headed to the Stand Down event at the fairgrounds in Eugene. So all you have to do is just mention that you are headed to the Stand Down event, and it's a free ride. So there's information on that, probably on their website, but I did give this to our city recorder, so I'm sure it'll be on our website as well shortly. And just a huge, big, amazing thank you to Mr. Myers. We had a wonderful retirement party, and true to form, Mr. Myers was at service and delivering ice cream to all of the guests. Despite having the party be for him, you still worked it. So I'm not surprised. And tonight's your last night, so I just want to say a big, huge thank you for everything that you have done, everything that you've not been recognized for, and everything that you have been praised for. You are going to leave a big hole, but you've set us up well, so thank you for everything that you've done.
Councillor Dreer.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Savage. I also want to hear your speech because I missed it as well. Tonight is Yom Kippur. Well, it's over because the sun is down, so hopefully people have broken people have broken their fast, but it's the holiest day for our Jewish fellow neighbors, and it's a time to think about the past year, repent, and hope for the future. And I think it's unique that it also comes right after International Day of Peace, and I thought it was lovely to see that event and so many people represented there in our community. As someone who served in the Peace Corps in Azerbaijan, former Soviet Socialist Republic, for 3 years, I've learned a lot about peace. Where I lived, I was an English teacher, and the second floor of our school building was all housing for internally displaced refugees. And that's where I really learned the importance of place and what a place can mean to a community, especially when you're displaced and you're longing to go home. And the families that I worked with and taught there had been living in that school. Like, each family got a classroom, and they were all sharing one school bathroom on the floor. And they had been waiting for 20 years to go back home, which is still occupied territory. So peace is not just the absence of active conflict. Peace is being safe to express your views without fear of your own personal safety. It's respecting diversity of opinions and friendship. And what I learned in the Peace Corps is that people across the world just want very similar things, which is your safety for your family, the ability to thrive, enough food, shelter. So I hope we can take that with us into what is the new Jewish New Year.
Councillor Merryday.
This past Thursday, I was attending the executive session of the Lane Workforce Council, and there have the workforce is across the, as you heard tonight, across the board an issue. They've done a number of things to help industry train and retain qualified applicants. They will continue to do that, but as we've heard from South Lane Mental Health tonight and from tourism as well, workforce is a key, and I believe housing is also a part of that. Those that are fortunate enough to be housed often do not appreciate the challenges of those that cannot find housing or are struggling with the issues that won't allow them to enter the workforce. I still wish very urgently that we can have our community conversation on unhoused, and really the sticking point seems to be finding a facilitator that would be available, but I hope that we can pull together many of the stakeholders in the next week or so to find a date and time that we can do a meeting to help plan the event and get it in our consciousness sooner rather than later. So I hope that we can get that done pronto. Thank you.
Councillor Flack.
Yeah, I'd like to report the El Rapa board has had a couple executive sessions lately. The last one actually was Tuesday. I actually came down from the mountains into Joseph for it. We have another one scheduled for Friday. I can't really say anything at this point, but I will share with you the result of that after it's out in public.
Councilor Irvin?
Thank you, Mayor. There's been two recurring thoughts that I think are worth looking at, pros and cons and implications. But one of them, I have concern over unaccompanied minors at the overflow sites and just what situations that can present. And I understand that that's a complicated issue, and there's a lot that surrounds that. But I'd like to consider a change to a policy as it relates to occupancy in the overflow sites. Just look at that. The other thing is, over the years of doing this, I've heard some discussion, possibility of addressing blighted properties, whether they be commercial. I think that's kind of the focus when we're talking about economic development and stimulus, about what the image gives off, and the impact that has on just residents that come and experience and visit, to see really dilapidated, sites is not good. So I'd like to look at what it would look like to, have an ordinance that seeks to address that in our community. So those are two things that I hope to have conversation among the council here coming up. Thanks.
Anyone else? No? Well, on Friday, the city in Quaynor Park had hosted Rip City, which was the Portland Trailblazers and MODA that came to our community, and it was a great event and very well attended, and it was a lot of fun to see the kids out there shooting baskets, and I thought it was a really nice, healthy way to come together. And they presented the city with this plaque. It says, "Healthy Habits, Happy Hearts, and Adventurous Spirits," and it shows their route through the smaller communities around us, and that was pretty nice. And then they also gave the city this Portland Trailblazers jersey. And so I thought that was pretty nice. And I don't know what the city would do with that, but maybe it could even be a raffle item or some sort of donation. As far as my speech at the Peace and Unity, I actually gave that a lot of thought and ended up just kind of speaking from personal experience that I had. And for me, to really understand what peace means, you have to understand the ravages of war. And I moved to California in my early 20s and didn't have any friends or family there, and so I started making some friends, and one of my oldest friends is from Iran, and her experience was pretty heartbreaking when she shared with me. It was around the 4th of July, and I was asking her what her plans were, and she told me that she usually has to stay home because where she grew up is the biggest city in Iran, Tehran, and she remembers as a child almost daily at some points in her life that bombs were being dropped on her city. And so the fireworks were so much anxiety. And so she would just stay inside, and still to this day, she will not enjoy fireworks. And I find it interesting because unless it is personal, when we're watching it on TV, what's going on in other countries, we really can't imagine. And what I had said was, I can't remember where I was Thursday of last week, but boy, if you ask any of us where we were when 9/11 happened, we can tell you where we were, what we were doing, probably even what we had for lunch that day, if we even ate, if we felt like we could. And then I was fortunate enough to become friends with a big Yugoslavian family, and they really took me under their wing, and they are such a wonderful culture and very family oriented. And so I became very close with them, and then shortly after I met another whole Yugoslavian family, and that's strange, but that's what happened. And so I was so excited to introduce the two families because I was thinking they have so much in common, they are going to love each other, and so I finally got the opportunity to introduce these two families, and they got to talking, and they immediately went to speaking Serbian, and of course I couldn't understand. I walked away for a minute, and they didn't shake hands, they hugged. And then when I walked away, they were all happy, and then I came back because I heard rage. I mean, they were yelling at each other, and it still gives me chills to talk about it because it was pretty devastating to me because it broke my heart because I was so excited for them to meet. And turns out my young 20-something mind didn't consider that Serbia was or Yugoslavia was splitting up. There were so many different populations there, and it was Croatia and the Serbs, and they were at war. So they still had family back there, and their families were at war with each other, and they could not see past it. And I can remember saying to them, "We've got more in common than not. Why are you fighting?" And they went their separate ways that day, and took a couple years, but they came back together. And actually a couple of the girls in one family married a couple of guys in the other family, and they spend Christmases together every year, every holiday. And so that was really special for me, and that was the message that I have carried on through life is, to remember that we have more in common than not. So that's my speech.
And it was recorded.
Yeah, it's not exactly.
Thank you so much for sharing, Mayor. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So, business from the city manager.
I want to report first, as Stephen mentioned, the maintenance of covered bridges in Lane County. Our covered bridges in Cottage Grove are actually, because they're bicycle pedestrian paths, we can use our bicycle pedestrian money to keep them up and maintain them. And we do that. So we do have that funding available. It's not a lot, but it does help considerably for that. We did do some work on looking at industrial park properties and values for you. As we talked about one that had an offer, we have a proposal and an analysis, a market analysis that was done by Campbell. They're saying that property should go for somewhere between $4.50 to $5 a square foot, significantly more than what the offer was. So we have 4 other agents or industry organizations that we're working with right now to get proposals to help market that and to get us a better price on the property. So that's where we're at with that piece of property. And then I did some quick numbers and calculations today. Over the course of 26 years here in Cottage Grove, it's estimated that I've attended 624 council meetings. And as this meeting is apparently above average at a little over 2 hours, assuming that we're about 2 hours a meeting, that's about 1,248 hours of city council meetings. And if you break that down into how many days, that's a total of 52 days, solid 24 hours a day in council meetings over 26 years. If you put that into my whole 32 years as a city manager, it goes up to 768 council meetings, 1,536 hours for a total of 64 days. That's 2 months sitting in a council meeting all the time. So I'm very honored and appreciated for the opportunity to serve as city manager here in Cottage Grove. 26 years has been a lot of fun. It's had its challenges. No day is what you plan on it to be, and it has been a great honor to serve this community. I'm going to stay here. I love it here. I'll tell David that, I've got one child that doesn't have any grandkids for me yet, so we'll see if I can get more than 11. But we're excited for the opportunities, and thank you so much for the opportunity to serve in this community. I'm anticipating that I will continue to be doing things in local government, more on a regional or statewide level, and continue to keep that moving. I won't be able to get it out of my blood. Thank you so much.
Congratulations. All right. Business from the city attorney, who is not here.
We do have an attorney online, and that's for the
Okay. All right. Items removed from the consent agenda. Executive session pursuant to 192.6602H to consult with the council concerning the legal rights and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed. The City Council for Cottage Grove will now meet in executive session to consider information or records that are exempt by law from public inspection. The executive session is held pursuant to ORS 192.6602H, which allows the council to meet in executive session to consult with counsel concerning the legal rights and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session, and at the end of the executive session, we will return to open session, welcome the audience back into the room, and adjourn the meeting.
So we will ask the others that are on the virtual meeting to please leave, and once you've left, we'll lock the meeting, and except for Truman, don't leave, and then we'll open it back up afterwards. In case somebody's there, and then we can adjourn the.
Okay.
And no one's there.
No one's there. All right. This meeting is adjourned.